Hello, I'm Holly Saitta, and welcome to Practice. Today's class, we're going to be introducing forward flying acrobatics. So we will start with kind of a little seated warm-up partner stretch routine, kind of get into each other's rhythm, synchronize with the breath and the body, and then we'll come up to L-basing and flying. And today's practice will be more activated. The flyer will be flying like a bird, and we'll introduce just some intro poses like bird, forward plank, throne, just like the fun party moves that you see people kind of pull out whenever you're somewhere, and it's like those signature acro moves, and then we'll cool down together. So we're gonna get started seated in a posture that's comfortable in your body today with your partner, just finding a nice space to yourself for a moment. We will ground in ourselves, but we want to get a little close. So go ahead and make sure that you're at least a couple of inches from each other and just kind of arrive in your body today. So no matter what you were doing earlier or where you're going later, just take a few moments to self. And I think it's always a good idea to just ground and center and orient yourself with your space and your surroundings and yourself. So just go ahead and take some moments here, maybe shrugging the shoulders up towards the ears and taking a deep breath in through the nose and maybe exhaling. The shoulders fall down the back. Find a nice tall seat, maybe wiggle side to side, feel your sit bones on the ground, even closing your eyes if that's comfortable for you. And maybe even taking a couple of circles of your hips just a little bit, just to kind of get into your own body before inviting someone else into your space. And then taking some moments of stillness, closing your eyes if that's comfortable for you, or if it's something you'd like to do, gaze into your partner's eyes, that's fine too. Either or works, whatever you're here for. Setting that intention. What brought you here to the mat today with this being in front of you? Taking a few moments to dedicate your practice to something. Be it to grow closer to self or to others, or to just have some fun. So we're going to go ahead and start to move a little bit, getting a little closer, and we're going to just take our arms up towards the sky and just go ahead and make sure that you're close enough so whenever you take a twist to the left, you guys can grab each other's wrists like so. So you're going to reach across, find a nice cross here of the arms, and just take a nice twist in the spine, maybe look up and over the shoulders. So postures you may or may not be familiar with already in your regular yoga class, your regular yoga practice. Everything we do here applies. So yoga is preliminary to AcroYoga. So relax your shoulders down away from your ears. Maybe look up and over your left shoulder. And then again, communicate if you want to twist. Maybe squeeze the palm and twist a little further. Exhale, just kind of drench it out. Whatever was going on earlier, let it go here. New beginnings. And whenever we're ready, we're just going to go ahead and let go of the left hand and reach the left hand up towards the sky for a side stretch. And then go ahead and float it down. And go ahead when you're ready, bring the arms up again. And then we'll take a twist to the right, bringing the left hand in front of you, right hand behind your back, and finding that nice grip. So always making sure you got a nice hold on things. So finding a nice comfortable grip and inhaling into a tall spine and exhaling, twisting a little deeper. Maybe noticing your body already start to open up and invite more space. Notice if you're feeling the energy of your partner and just see if you can try to have a relaxed grip. Relaxed gaze, maybe look up and over your right shoulder if it's comfortable on your neck. And when we're ready, we're just going to release the hand from the back and reach the right arm up and over just to get a stretch. Nice. And then when we're ready, coming on out. So just taking some shrugs here. And now we're going to go ahead and find our Buddha legs. So one partner will take Buddha legs. The other partner will come into long legs. And we're going to kind of do like a head to knee pose, opening up my hips and then the hamstrings of the partner. So finding your nice grip here. Inhale into a tall spine and then begin to rock in and out of the pose with your shoulder, your collarbones nice and broad as we move in and out. And this is a good calibration, a good warm-up just to kind of pass the breath back and forth. We can imagine inhaling as we come up and exhaling as we guide down. And just moving and passing that breath back and forth a couple of times. Drawing the elbows in towards the sides, and then exhale, forward folding. And then we'll find a pause, so eventually coming up just tall. And if you'd like, kind of bringing a micro bend to your knees if you have, there you go, if you have long legs, and just kind of coming forward with a straight spine. So as if you're gonna lay your belly down on your thighs. Really broad collarbones. So my partner's pretty flexible. Maybe she feels like she can straighten her legs now and maybe have a straight spine. And then once you feel like you've gotten as far as you can, go ahead and round out the spine. And I'm gonna go ahead and draw my elbows in towards my side. And if it feels like I can pull her a little more, maybe open up my chest and dip my head back a little bit. And then pausing for a couple breaths before you go and switch and pause for a few breaths here. So we're kind of doing a fish pose if you're doing the pool. In the forward fold here, you're going to try to keep your sit bones grounded. Try to not let your partner lift you up off the ground. And then inhale, come up to a straight spine. And we'll go ahead and switch now. So finding long legs, and the arch of the foot is on the shin bone if you have long legs. And then we're going to go ahead and find opposite grip. So if you're on top or if you're on bottom, taking that opposite position this time. And again, finding nice broad collarbones so we stay straight in our spine. We're not rounding out too much. And then just begin to pass it back and forth. And breathing with the movements. And just kind of introducing these movements to the self and not having to really get too deep into them right now immediately. Just kind of breathing in them, in and out of them. And knowing that we're all in different places in our bodies and moving through these movements with no judgments. And just feeling, maybe even closing the eye for intuitive movements. If we close our eyes, helps us tune in a little more. So we're going to pause here. And since my partner's pretty flexible, I'm going to go ahead and introduce a different way to do this. You can release the arms, and this is a different way to do it. You can bring it a little further and just kind of tug on the shoulders. She can hold my hips, and I'm offering a little bit more of an opening here. And she's kind of assisting my pelvis forward, and I can kind of tuck my pelvis towards her and lean back. She's getting a nice hip opener, hip flexor opener. I'm getting a nice heart opener here, opening the throat, bandha. And that just means like an energy lock. So it's a good way to just kind of open up the throat every now and then. And I'm going to come on up and switch. Now she'll pull me towards her. I'm going to take that micro bend in my knees like I was saying before. She's going to start to pull me forward. And I'm going to stay straight in my spine. And then maybe if it feels okay for me, I flex my toes and straighten my legs, but stay active in your legs, active stretching here. So the hamstrings are probably one of the most important things to do for AcroYoga. Really important to get the hamstrings nice and open here. So take a deep breath into the back of the legs. Imagine where your sit bone is attached to your leg. You have like a third lung there. And don't rush these movements. These are really great. Maybe round out the spine for a couple of breaths now that we're here. And then inhale, rise on up. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to actually take figure 4 legs. So she's just going to bring her leg here, nice. We're going to do another little seated forward fold, but a little different. So we'll go ahead and inhale our arms up. And then exhale, we're just going to forward fold and grab for the opposite thigh. So this is like, you may see runners doing this stretch. Really good for the whole back of the leg. We can even kind of claw the top of the thigh here for a little bit of a massage. And then come on up. And then while we're here, I want to go ahead and switch, and then we're going to introduce a little bind that we're going to come to later when we're flying up in the air. But let's take the opposite side. So inhale, tall spine, and then exhale, forward fold, and then maybe find these claws on top, depending on your sizing for your partner. You may or may not be able to reach their thigh. Perhaps you reach their calf then. You can find a bind though. And binds are important in yoga, and in AcroYoga especially, is because it helps keep us together. So it makes things more secure. And we're going to learn a lot about binds in this class and how to mount and dismount. So just take this. It's technically a bind here if I'm like holding onto her thigh. And then we'll go ahead and come up, and I'll introduce what a real bind is. So this is going to look a little awkward because we're not in the air, but I want to go ahead and introduce something. So if she straightens both of her legs, I can do this thing where I wrap my leg up and over, and the arch of her foot is here on the back of my thigh, kind of near the pit of my knee, and my legs are wrapped around the front of her legs here. So we're going to go both. We're just going to switch this feeling. Now she's going to go ahead and do it to me. So she's going to bring her legs up atop, and the arches of my feet are kind of here. And you'll notice it looks a little different. It feels kind of weird because we're not in the air yet, but we will be in the air soon, and this will all make a lot more sense. It's a good idea for acro yoga to do these postures and warm up on the ground first, because you want to introduce what it's like, what it feels like on the ground before bringing it up into the air. We start to get all tossed around and things start to not make as much sense. So now you know what the legs look like. Hopefully our muscle memory will remember. And now we're going to bring the toes together and just wind up this fun little stretch we got going. So go ahead and straighten here. We're going to do the boat pose. So go ahead and press one foot into one foot here, and then the other foot. And then find your boat pose. Find your finger grip here. We're clamping onto each other's fingers like so. Take a deep breath here. And then we're going to do a little bit of a challenge. We're going to bend the knees a little bit, and we're going to actually bring the legs out. Nice. So we're going to start to activate these little muscles that are in the center of our thighs. And we don't want to deactivate them when we're flying, especially in throne pose today. We're going to want a strong pelvic floor, some strong core muscles, and some open inner thighs. So now we're going to pause here and see if we can just hover for a moment. And then exhale, kind of let the legs go down, but not too much, and then inhale, come up. So this is also knowing your edge. So exhale, don't go too far, and only if you can bring yourself up. And then exhale, find your edge. Maybe do it a couple more times. Find your edge, maybe hover, really feel these inner thigh muscles activate, and then drop it down. So now that we've gotten those muscles nice and activated, let's go ahead and open them up with a stretch. We'll cross the arms here for a little cross. We'll do some circles here. So a little middle splits, inner thigh workout, and finding a nice opening in the hips, and then go the other way. Kind of stirring it up, maybe get some pops out of the hips. Nice. And then pausing in the center, releasing your left arm up and over, and then taking a nice side stretch. So depending on how flexible you are, you may or may not reach your toes, but this looks a lot like a compass pose if we were in regular yoga. So we want to side stretch, a really big open side body. We're not rounding in our spines here and closing our hearts. Keep your heart nice and open. And then if you so happen to be able to reach your toes or your partner's toes, then go for it. Take a deep breath into the left side of the body. You can also kind of tug on each other's elbows here to remind each other to open the hearts. Elbows are kind of rested on the floor, our right elbows. And then inhale, we'll come on up. Switch the grip. We'll do the opposite side. So grabbing the wrist, inhale, arm up. So really no destination here. We don't need to force ourselves into anything here. We're here to assist each other, and you've got a human prop here in front of you. So we can use each other and assist each other in these poses, but we don't want to force anything. And just noticing that either side of the body is different and no judgment. We're totally asymmetrical beings. Taking a deep breath. Maybe your palm is guided towards your partner's toes or your toes. Maybe not. Keeping the heart open. Either way. Deep side stretch, and then go ahead and inhale. Come on up, and then take a break. We're going to actually close the legs like we were to close a book, because that can be an intense stretch. If you stay in it for too long, it can be pretty intense on the legs. So now we're just going to come on up with a little help from our friends. We're going to bring our knees in between our legs, and we're just going to sit back for a quick counterbalance on up to stand. And before we start, we'll just press the shoulders down and just kind of wiggle out the legs a little bit. Kind of like you're walking your dog out. Do a little bit of a warm-up stretch, opening up the shoulders. We're going to soon start to pick each other up. So go ahead and just find the opposite person's palms in the center. This is another one of those go-to partner stretches, anywhere you are. If you can just grab a partner and just kind of press the weight off their shoulders. Open up the heart. to the practice before we begin to pick each other up. Okay. Now we're going to move into L-basing. So I'm going to go ahead and assist my partner down. And the way that this will work is we're going to kind of switch up. We're going to start with her flying and then or with me flying and then she'll fly. Just so we can get a feel, and I'll talk through what it's like to be the flyer and what it's like to be the base. And so we're going to start with our drills, or our collaboration drills, rather. And we're just going to go ahead and bring the feet to the hips, and we're going to start with just a couple of leg pushes, just a couple, not too many. And I want to introduce a concept here while I'm here that I may or may not have introduced in previous classes. So we want to bring our hands out like so, and I want you to feel your shoulder blades back and together. And imagine you were like in a cobra pose here. Imagine your body were straight, your upper back is activated. And notice what it's like to hold yourself up. Notice the difference between this and this. Total difference. So right now I'm passive and I'm not holding myself. Now I'm active and I'm holding myself. I'm flying. You can literally imagine your shoulder blades as wings, and you can pull them back and together actively. And then we're going to come into upward facing plank. So when we're ready, we're going to bring the hands together. And flyer's fingers are always forward. Find this grip. Never clasping the hands like this. It's harder to let go. We want to be able to come down if we need to. So go ahead, and she's going to keep her lower back on the ground, and she's going to next inhale, she's going to lift me up. So finding your solid 4 points of contact here. Noticing the parts of your body that are touching your partner. Noticing the feet on the hips. Maybe checking in, are they in the right spot? And if not, you can come down and you can readjust. That's totally fine. But we're going to learn now how we can adjust in the air. So we're going to feel our lightness in this. Tightness is lightness in acrobatics. I'm going to feel really light up here. And then she's going to feel her feet, and she's going to start to do some drills. If you're feeling really comfortable, then she's going to start to kind of swivel me. And since this is acrobatics, you want to stay really tight. Like I said, tightness is lightness. You want to imagine like you're in your plank pose. This is upward facing plank. I'm just in the air. And on my partner, I'm going to feel my legs zip up behind me, the back of my legs engaged, my upper body engaged. And now we're going to pause in the center after the swiveling. And if that went all right, then we're going to try 2 points of contact. So whenever I'm ready, I'm going to see if I can feel no weight in my hands. There should be virtually no weight in the hands anyways, and that's what makes it a little safer than a regular plank. But we're going to bring our arms up and see if we can stay active in our upper body and just be in like your cobra pose here or in your airplane. So I don't know if you're a kid and you used to do airplane pose. This is one of those poses that we've kind of maybe all been in before. It kind of feels just intuitive, like I've been here before. So we're going to bring the hands together. We're going to do 3 points of contact now. So when she's ready, she's going to start to, you can play around with this as well. This is 3 points of contact. But we're going to remove the feet, a little more challenging here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay really tight, and I'm going to see if I can sink my weight into my left hip as she's going to come and remove. Notice we're like bending our elbows where we need support, and then coming back, and then going to the other side. Staying really tight, breathing, and then bringing that foot back. Nice. And whenever we're ready, we're going to move. That's really important to do. 3 points of contact is super important to do for our throne pose because we're going to need to only have 3 points of contact for a moment. So when we're ready, we're going to see if we can find a weight in our right hip. I'm going to find my figure 4 legs, like I had at the beginning of class, tree pose legs. And then I'm going to see if I can find that wrap that we did. She's going to slide her foot down all the way down to the pit of my knee. I'm staying active. I'm staying light here, so I'm kind of holding myself up here. And I'm going to see if I can find that wrap. This is the bind we introduced at the beginning of class. And see, this bind is going to help me to be able to bind here, a little more weight in the wrist, and then she's going to see if she can slide her foot down and then find that other bind. So we're here in this pose. And maybe you're feeling like you're really weak in your arms. Try to stay strong in your arms this whole time. This whole class will be pretty strong in the arms. So we're going to see if she can bend the knees a little bit. When she bends the knees, that brings me down and it brings weight out of my hands and it makes it so I can bring some more engagement into my core, and I'm going to see if I can float up. Okay? So let's talk about alignment here. I'm going to try to feel aligned in my own body here in throne pose. So I've got my head, my shoulders, and my hips all in a line here. I'm not poking my butt out like so. I'm going to keep my pelvis nice and tucked forward. And what that does is it engages your pelvic floor muscles, or your mula bandha is what we might also call it in yoga. And also bring your hands to the hips for stability, or you can kind of bring them up towards the air. So this helps when your arms are up in the air. It helps you fly. Kind of imagine yourself a little lighter this way. So you can imagine yourself also with like a string attached to the top of your head that's attached to the cloud up in the sky. And we're going to breathe here, finding some, maybe a little slightly draw our knees together a little bit helps too. What I often see times is people sinking. They sink in their hips. They're not holding themselves here. There's total unawareness in this part of the body. We're going to have awareness. We're going to hold ourselves here with lightness. And take some deep breaths. The base, as you can see, is also aligned. And we'll talk a little bit later what the base is going to feel like when I'm down on the ground. So breathing here as a flyer, taking some deep breaths. And then maybe, so we don't freak out and flail out and fall off, right? No, the key word is down. If you're feeling like you need to come down, the key word's always down. But we're going to get out of it the way we came into it. That's always the key rule here. So we unbind one foot and see if we can bring that foot back. Unbind the other foot, bring that foot back, and then come back to the ground. Nice. And you can do a quick leg pull, leg shake. We're going to switch it up a little bit, and it's kind of hard to both be talking at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now describe what it feels like to be a base in your throne pose. I think that the base is, thankfully, most of the time your job can feel the same, but you'd be surprised. Really, it's the same role, just reversed. The base, you're a little more grounded. You still want to have some lightness and playfulness in your body. You don't want to feel too heavy or bogged down, but you do want to feel rooted as a base. So we're going to go ahead and assist your base down. And as the base, the first thing I want to do is I want to check in and see how my back is feeling. I want to see if my lower back can stay on the ground as I bring my legs up to this 90-degree angle. And you can offer a little bit of weight as my partner here is doing. And just find that alignment. Find the ankles and the knees and the hips in this 90-degree angle. Every now and then we'll go out a 90-degree angle, but most of the time you're going to be in a 90-degree angle. It's what makes things stacked and stable. So now we're going to go ahead, and when we're ready, we're going to find our bird, flyer's fingers forward, and it's always so funny. I mostly fly, so I will forget to do that. She's going to come in towards me. You can do your collaborations if you want, but we're going to skip over them for now. Finding all the same movements on this side if you can. So I'm going to do a little bit of swiveling. She's going to stay light in her body. As the base, I'm windshield wipering my toes. And I want to feel the arches of my feet and her hip bones. And so the reason that this 3 points of contact thing is really useful is because we can say, hey, let's adjust. So like I want her to sink. I'm going to wiggle my left toes. I'm going to tell her to sink her weight into her left hip, her right hip, my left foot. Nice. And I'm going to remove, and then I'm going to come back. So always having your limbs nearby. Don't forget about your leg and put it on the ground like this. No, because that's not good. We want to have it there to catch our flyer if we need to. So have awareness of your full body during this practice if you can at all times. So taking a breath here, maybe she wants to go into her bird pose. As a flyer goes into bird, you'll notice more weight is taken out of the upper body, and you're going to need, or it's put into the upper body because now you're holding their full body. I'm going to want to push my toes forward. I'm kind of pointing my toes a little bit here rather than I'll bring her hands. If I flex the toes, then her weight is going to come forward. But you want to point and flex the feet, and just notice that difference here. So we're going to pause, and then we're going to go for our throne. So we're going to choose a side. I'm going to wiggle my toes. A lot of the times the base will cue. Whenever you're flowing and you're moving, you will non-verbally communicate, and you'll cue which side to go to. I'm going to wiggle the toes of this foot, and that means that she's going to remove the other hip. I'm going to bring the foot down. So I'm moving just the ball of my foot down to the crease of almost to the pit of her leg, and she's going to go ahead and wrap here. Once I feel a solid bind, we're going to go ahead and sink weight into that side and then come down. So a lot of movement. I didn't have to really bend my knees just now to let her come up because I'm kind of shorter, but it is a little easier to let the knees bend a little bit. A couple of things you might notice as a base here. Shin to shin cannot always be comfortable. So I'm noticing if you need to readjust. I'm going to actually ask for Nicole's hands here, and I'm going to say, bring your hands to mine, and I'm going to move one of my feet, fingers flyers forward. I'm gonna move one of my feet in a little bit. So I'm gonna move this foot in a little bit, and I'm just gonna shake a little bit, and then I'm gonna come up like this, and we're gonna see how this feels. Feels a little more comfortable. You can readjust, always readjust, finding stability before movement, finding comfortability in your poses. So that way we're having fun with it, right? We're not hurting each other or anything like that. So breathing here. A couple of drills as a base you could do is you could practice something like this. Try not to freak out your flyer too much. Staying light and playful in your practice is always important. And then we're gonna come down, we'll bring the hands down, unbinding, pointing the toes out, bringing the foot, sliding it back down, and then go ahead and slide the other one back down, and then come on down. I would like to introduce now, so that's one of the basic poses that you'll see a lot of acro yogis go to. It's a go-to pose. Throne pose or chair pose, but I like to call it throne pose. You're kind of up there on your throne. I'd like to now introduce a different way to mount into that pose. So it might seem easier to kind of start from the beginning in your bird, go from there, but oftentimes in acro yoga, what you'll find, there's a lot of intricate finagling that happens, and some of it is kind of pointless. We can skip over a lot of it. So I'm gonna see if now we can bring our hands together like so, same way, but instead of coming through our bird, we're gonna try to see if we can just come straight into the throne. Okay, it's gonna require a little bit of trust, a little bit of jumping on my end. So she's gonna bring her toes, and you'll see she's bringing her toes just right here above my knee, kind of at the inner thigh here. And then I'm gonna kind of rock in, rock out, and then rock in, and then jump up, and she'll feel the weight here. I'm in this pose that we should be open enough in with our wide-legged forward fold, and then instead of sinking in my hips and falling back, I'm gonna stay active in my hips, and then I'm gonna wrap both of my feet at the same time. She bends her knees, and I come up. Nice. So that's a really simple intro pose, and also a cool way to get in and out of it. So that's one way to get in and out of it. And then we're just gonna bring the legs out, give them a nice shake. So now that we've done forward flying plank and bird pose and throne pose, I'll introduce one more pose. So we're actually gonna go ahead and come into another forward flying pose. So this might be a little bit more of a level 2, but if you're feeling comfortable in those poses, you might want to move on to this, or just play around with those and see how that goes. But we're going to see how coming into a bow pose might feel. So here we are in our bird, and one thing that's fun to do is to find this point, and if you're here and this works out, maybe you can reach back for that foot and see if you can grab that foot. And if you're here and that's comfortable, maybe you can reach your left arm forward. So here I'm in kind of this like half bow. I'm kicking my foot into my hand, my right hand. She's pressing her toes into me. And I'm pulling my knees together slightly. And I'm strong in my upper body. And I'm kind of like reaching my left arm up and kicking my right foot up. And then I'm gonna relax it and come back. Reset, we'll do the other side. So just start by kicking your butt with your left foot or your right foot. We're gonna do my left. And then I'm gonna see if I can reach back. So 3 points of contact here. And then we're going to 2 points of contact with just the feet, reaching, half bow. She's pointing the feet because she's noticing the weight distribution is changing. So she's pointing her feet a little bit, giving me a little bit more of a lift to watch, and others will point her feet even more. And that really gives me a nice lift here in my upper body. I'm kicking my foot into my hand, and I'm reaching up. And then I'm gonna exhale, come down. And we're gonna see if we can actually move on and do one more pose. So this is gonna be full bow. So taking a breath here, it's always nice to reset. Just a little leg tug feels good. It can be a lot of weight on your base. We'll see if we can do this bow pose. So coming forward, flat to your upward facing plank. And I'm gonna see if I can go 1 foot at a time here. I'm gonna bring both hands. She's gonna push, really push her toes into me. Like over generously. You would think to not do it a lot, but you really wanna do it a lot. I'm gonna kick my feet into my hands, open up my heart and breathe. Both of you, maybe you swivel from side to side. So she's going to maybe point me one direction, point me the other. Maybe you stay still. Finding challenge in your practice. It's acrobatics, so that's okay to add elements of challenge. And I'm trying to hold my posture as if I were on the floor and just real still, but I'm moving through the air, so it's a little different. And we'll go ahead and come on down. Nice. Give it a quick shake. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and switch, and I'll go ahead and introduce a couple more concepts as a base, different things that you might do as a base if you were basing in those poses. So taking a break for a moment if you need, readjusting. Also, if you need a pillow, if you're finding that over time during your acro practice, your lower back gets kind of weird feeling, it could be due to an overstretch of the back of the legs or overcompensation in the work that you're doing in the back of the legs. Your back will try to overcompensate and you'll feel pulling in your lower back. You could always get a blanket or something and just wedge it right underneath your pelvis, right here where your hands are. And that'll keep your hips grounded and things more comfortable. So just notice if you need things like that during your practice. We're gonna come forward to forward plank, forward flying plank. And then we're gonna pause. I'm just wiggling side to side with my feet, really finding a nice and stable spot. So for where she's going, I'm actually gonna bring my feet and we're gonna ask her to sink weight into this hip, sink weight into this hip, side to side, because I'm gonna bring my feet up kind of high. So a little bit higher than you might think they want them. It's gonna feel like the toes are kind of in the belly. Also gonna bring the toes in a little bit for this one. Cool. So I'm gonna look a little bit duck-footed for this pose. So we'll start with just one. She'll reach back for that foot. I'm staying stacked. So we say stacked in AcroYoga a lot. It's really important. We'll talk more about it another class, but really I'm just gonna briefly say stacking just means finding this stack. I'm not like this. This isn't stacked. This isn't stacked. Stacked. Nice. And we'll come here, come out, and we'll do the other side. And then before jumping right into something, it's always a good idea to just try it out. Find the 2 points of contact. Also, as a base, you might feel like constantly wanting to like catch them and reach for them, but just try to stay light on the ground and rooted. And then bring both hands together. So for this next one, I'm gonna really make sure my feet are in this spot on her belly because she's gonna come on up for both feet. And I'm gonna press into my toes. Like really generously, you will see if you're looking at my angles, the angle of my feet is changing because I'm really pressing into my toes, like kind of a lot. Her belly is supported by my toes a little bit. Nice. And you want to make sure it's like too much in the belly, but just enough to support her upper body. And we're like the floor for her and her boat. Go ahead and come on out. They might rock in and out. That's normal. They're breathing. And then they're going to come to the floor. Sweet. Quick leg tug, leg shake. Just taking some breaths. So now that we've introduced a couple of really fun kind of party tricks, party acro tricks. You can kind of pull those out of your bag or do them at the park or for fun, or just learning hopefully how to like gain some courage and how to trust each other and how to jump in and out of these things. It's fun. We're gonna also notice that it might have a little bit of an impact on our bodies. So it's always important after a class like this to wind down and give back to the body. So we're gonna do a little bit of assisted yoga. Lazy man's yoga. So we're gonna go ahead and actually start with a receiver and a giver. I'm gonna receive, or I'm gonna give first, she'll receive. She'll go ahead and sit down, lay down, you can get a pillow, you can get a blanket, get whatever sort of prop that you want for this part of class. The important part is that you're releasing. This is your savasana, essentially. In yoga, we have a part of class at the end where we reflect and we just totally chill out and let loose. So this is your savasana. It's your time to just reflect on your practice and release. So finding that release, finding your shoulder blades back and together. Find your palms open towards the sky. Find your toes flying out to the side. And then as a giver, we're just gonna start to scoop up the legs and just sway them side to side. So this is giving and getting yoga, all right? So I'm kind of here in my goddess stance, and I'm finding my toes pointing out. I'll explain as I'm giving the yoga what it feels like to give, and as I'm getting, I'll explain what it feels like to get and what you should be feeling in the body at either time. I'm going to windshield wiper the toes side to side. I'm going to find a nice sway here. We're going to actually do an active stretch of the back of the legs now. So I'm going to take a lunge with my right leg forward, and she's going to push her heel into my hand a little bit. She's going to resist this stretch as enough so I can feel kind of like I'm getting pushed into my palm. And that makes it an active stretch. So I'm going to push a little bit more because I'm not really feeling resistance. And you can push as much as to when you feel resistance. And like, again, you can have a little micro bend in the knee if you want. And we're going to take a pause here for this active stretch in the leg. And then we're going to come back and we're going to do the other side. So finding your lunge. So it's really quite beautiful. I'm like active in my legs, and she's trying to be passive in her legs mostly. Pressing the heel into my palm will help activate the stretch, flexing the toes towards the knees. I'm lunging forward. Beautiful. And then I'm actually going to take this side to side. See if she can kind of just give me her legs and be heavy. There's this machine at the gym, an elliptical, I think is what it's called. I feel like I'm on an elliptical right now. And you want to feel a little bit of exercise in the arms, grow a little bit of heat in the arms. Because then after you've done that, we'll pause and we'll take a stretch of the arms. So I'm just going to bring my hands to her heels and let my chest dip down. Taking some deep breaths here. Cool. We're going to come up. We're going to get a little bit more into the hips. So this class was kind of, I feel like, centric to the hips with the whole throne pose. That can be really opening of the hips for the throne pose. We're going to go ahead and we're going to kick out the legs. And we're going to wiggle side to side. This is called bus driver. You want to hold the heels and find like as if you were, driving a big bus and the wheels are really big in old buses. You can imagine you're steering a wheel here. And she's in her happy baby. She's receiving a nice happy baby. So we'll actually ask them to bring their arms out to a T so they're not in the way. Because what I'm going to do next is take the stretch a little further. So if this is feeling comfortable for you, we've also done the lunging. You can do a more passive lunge as well, like so, which I'll do now, just to instruct and kind of feeling the opening of the hip flexor here, coming on up. And know that you can pause and be in these poses for as long as you'd like. Coming out. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure both knees are kicked open. I'm going to walk forward, placing my feet on either side of her torso, making sure they're nice and open. And maybe this is just not in it today in your partner's practice today, but we're going to try to scoop their feet forward. So this is kind of a deeper happy baby opening. She's keeping her hips grounded. Her feet are now together. And I'm just going to pause for a moment here. So I'm going to find a nice grip. This is kind of like a bind a little bit. She's bound to me so that way I can release. Binds are really good for us to free up our hands. So I can actually take a nice little back bend here if I wanted to. Just a little one though, because notice as I push my knees forward, it really opens up their stretch a little more. We don't want to force the body to do anything it's not into today. We can just pause here. Maybe you bend the knees a little bit. And you can actually come forward if they want even more of an assisted stretch. And perhaps your partner's a contortionist and you can put their ankles behind their head. I'm not really sure, but it doesn't matter where they're at today. We're just enjoying the stretch, knowing where you can take it though. And I'm going to pause and then come on out, eventually letting the ankles go first, not just hopping out of anything, taking it one step at a time, coming out, shaking the legs out. We're going to do another one that's one of my favorites. We're going to come onto the floor. We're going to actually open up the legs. We're bringing the arches of the feet to the hips. We're gonna open up here. So I'm gonna see if I can kind of wobble her knees side to side. I'm gonna grab their knees and see if I can find the arches of my foot, the like knife edge of my foot, I guess you could say. It's like the sharp edges of your foot. We're gonna use them as tools. In assisted yoga, in partner yoga, your human is your prop. So we go home at the end of the day, we grab massage tools or massage balls. We can imagine now your human partner as that massage prop. And the feet and the hands are amazing tools. We should use them more often for things like this. We're gonna see if we can just kind of go side to side. I'm putting the feet underneath the back, wobbling, breathing, supporting the knees. You might notice their knees might be really open easily if someone has open hips, or they might tend to want to close their hips. That's fine. Either way, we're just going to kind of assist this, meet them where they're at, and really explore moving the feet out to the outer sides of the hips and then back under. And then when we're ready, we're just going to remove the legs, straightening the legs out. We'll do one more stretch. So coming out like we were at the beginning of class. This is something we did at the beginning of class. We're going to do a little rowboat. So remember we were doing the bind. You can even find your bind here, like we're going to go into throne, but we're not. We're trying to chill out. We're just going to row the boat here. So paddling and rowing. You can imagine you were actually, close your eyes and like bring yourself to that calm state, somewhere where you might be actually rowing a boat. Feel the feet on the inner thigh, walking up and back, the back of the leg. Maybe noticing them let go a little bit more. And then when we're ready, scooping that knee up and then coming to do the other side, letting that leg come down. You'll notice my grips here are important. So a grip on top of the foot and a grip underneath the ankle. And then we're going to find a nice rowing and paddling. You can even pause if you'd like and find that bind and come forward like we did at the beginning of class. There's so many options here. You can pause in your forward fold. If you're feeling like when you're giving, you can get really like, you know, like you're over someone, it can feel hard, but we don't want that to feel hard for you. We want this to feel easy, and we want you to feel good in your body so that way who you're giving to can feel good in their bodies, because energy is transferable, and that's an important key in this partner acro yoga practice, knowing that we share energy. All right, bringing that foot down. And just kind of pausing for a moment, maybe windshield wipering the toes side to side. And you can take this moment if you'd like to just kind of let your partner soak in the benefits as you would at the end of your yoga class, and then you can switch, but it's really important to switch. So we're going to go ahead and find the practice of give and take. So reciprocation, that's what this practice is all about. And the beauty of the end of the class, the end cool down of the class portion, is that both parties can normally give and receive, which is nice. So that's not always the case in acro yoga. So you'll find that a flyer or a base doesn't really work out as the other, but it's pretty beautiful how this does. So now I'm just going to go ahead and talk a little bit about, I'll instruct what's happening still, but I'm going to talk more and put more of an emphasis on what you should be feeling as a receiver in your body during these stretches. As they scoop up your heels, decompressing is what you want to notice. So the first thing you want to feel is your body let go, being heavy. How can I give myself to this person? And as they just pull and sway, you can really feel your joints decompress, your hips, your knees, your ankles. This is one of those go-to leg love things that we do for our partner in acro yoga. The shake, you want to feel your whole body kind of get a nice decompression. I feel it even in my spine opening up a little bit when she does this. And then we're going to do that active stretch. So she's going to let one leg come down. She's going to keep one of the legs in her hands, and she's going to find a lunge, a lunge-like position. but she's going to stay up and she's going to keep my hand in her heel, and she's going to press my hand into her heel. The back where the Achilles tendon is where we're going to put our hand. So in the back of the leg, right here. And we're going to stand up all the way and just press into that leg. It really doesn't matter what you're doing. We're going to press the foot towards my face, is because this becomes an active stretch. And I want to be able to press my foot back into her so that way I feel like I'm actively stretching here. They can walk their palm up and down the back of the leg. They can do what I did and just kind of step back. The idea is here to just kind of let go in the back of the leg, receive this passive stretch. They'll press into me more, into my heels, so that way when I press back into them, they feel a resistance. They want to resist my push. And you're getting a lunge and giving. And then we'll do the other side. So I'm going to flex my toes towards my knees immediately. And I'm going to feel at first, just let them push into you as far as your leg will go, as it can stay straight. You might have a micro bend in it, but you want to see if you can try to keep your leg straight. And we're going to press the foot into the hand. She can walk the hands down the legs. And just kind of giving back here, noticing how the back of the leg feels. So there's this huge, huge muscle in the back of the leg, the hamstring attachment. There's so much going on. The back of the knees, the ligaments, the calf. Feel a stretch all along the back of the leg during this one. And breathing fully is always recommended. So for bus wheel, we're going to go ahead and come on up, and she's going to knock the knees out and then hold the feet in the hands like this. You're going to put the feet in the hands like a bus wheel. Yeah. And I'm just going to, again, try to feel loose and open here in my hips as they sway side to side. This is your happy baby. And this is level 1, happy baby assisted yoga. Level 2 is to kind of go ahead and actually, we're going to do level 2 that I didn't do before. So she's going to come to her goddess pose and bring my feet to her knees and bring her hands to my knees. So this is one I didn't really introduce in the other before, but this is a level 2. And she can kind of sway side to side, bending one knee, bending the other. Yeah, and finding I'm getting a really nice deep hip flexor opener here. I'm going to try to keep my lower back grounded through all of these movements if I can. Breathing into the legs, into the hips. So this is the position where a lot happens. The hips store a lot of tension, so don't feel afraid to just hang out here for a moment. But we will go to level 3 if you would like, if you're feeling like you can. So the level 3 is when she steps her feet over me, either side of me. If she's feeling like it's available, she hooks, this is the bind. Find the bind. So if this bind is feeling comfortable for you, and you can hold this bind, she's going to take a little break and find a nice back bend if she'd like. As she bends her knees or presses her knees into me, it brings my stretch a little bit further. So she actually can hold the feet now. And just try to bring the feet together and see if you can actually bring them below the knees and maybe press them towards the face more of your partner. And I'm feeling a deeper stretch. I don't want to feel my hips come up just yet, but perhaps you do for just a moment and just breathe here. Press the feet towards my face, and then I'm just going to see if I can lift my hips up a little bit as she bends the knees and breathing. And just pausing, noticing maybe you release. It takes a total of like 30 seconds, I think, for you to hold a stretch before your body actually physiologically starts to respond to it. So we're going to go ahead and come on out and find the bind, release, and then come on out. Float both of the feet back down towards the floor as you come down to a seat. And we're going to actually bend the partner's legs. And we're going to do the rocking side to side. So I actually sometimes in my regular yoga practice will sit in this pose and I'll use my fist. But I don't need to do that right now. I have my partner here and I'm just kind of relaxing and receiving the benefits, receiving the stretches from them. They're assisting us. But having clear communication throughout this whole practice is really important. So noting if something doesn't feel good or if you want to pause and say, hey, that feels really good. Let's stay there. Let's keep your foot there. Also, might not have to do a lot of verbal communication. You'd be surprised as the giver. You might feel a little knot in the hips. We're just going to try to rock the feet, and they'll feel the feet more underneath the sacrum, and then feel the feet more on the outsides of the hips. A lot of different places for us to go. Exploring anatomy here is really fun in our assisted yoga practice. So taking a few breaths to just relax. And they can kind of wiggle their feet like so, just side to side here while you kind of relax in this posture. And then we'll go ahead and bring the knees, close them like a book. And you can kind of resist that push if you'd like to work on the muscles in between your legs. And then we're going to come on out. And then we're going to find the figure four. So that thing that we did at the beginning of the class, we're going to find a figure four. And we're going to find our paddle boat this time though. So I love how all these postures look really similar. So bringing the feet to the insides of the thighs. So I love how we just did this at the beginning of class. And now we're doing it now. So you can bring both feet to the inner hips. This time it's going to look a little different than at the beginning of class, but you can row the boat now. Holding the ankle and kind of, this is what the motion looks like with the feet. Really explore the balls of the feet on the inner thighs. And rowing all the way up. Yep, exploring. So the insides of the thighs can get especially tight on a lot of us, I know. Middle splits are not that much fun for most of us. And this kind of work can really help open up those spots so we can stretch on our own, or we can get our partner and open up a little bit more with their assistance. So that inner thigh here is getting a nice stretch. And then we're going to come on up and see if we can switch sides. And bending the knee, rebending the knee. So we've kind of been in this pose together at the beginning of class with the legs shaped like this. Then we picked each other up. And now we're on the ground, kind of making the same shapes. And exploring different things with those different parts of the body. So we're warming them up, actively using them, and now just giving back to them. It's really important to find that nice balance as they kind of paddle boat. You're just going to try to breathe and maybe communicate if you'd like them to pause somewhere. And then when we're ready, we're going to come on out, straighten the legs. She can kind of do one last little windshield wiper of the toes side to side. And again, if you want to take this moment to pause, that's fine. Just letting your partner kind of soak in all of the benefits. But now we're going to go ahead and close class. So finding a seated position in front of your partner, finding the same posture, same pose, perhaps a different perspective. And if you'd like to just take a pause and just kind of feel the benefits wash over your body. And we'll actually come in, scoot in close to each other, and we'll actually bring the hands to the shoulders for one last little touch of love here. Kind of just finding that light shoulder massage. You can take this time to check in about class or anything that had happened or that you would like different next time. But it's always important before that you part. We're going to go ahead and come back to self, where it all begins. And we're going to just bow to each other. So we say, the light in me honors the light in you. Namaste. Always taking that time to kind of honor the presence that we both have here in this practice is really important. And before we leave, always noting, thank you also is a good thing to say, or just always checking in with each other about how the practice went for you. And so that way you can develop on a different path and, kind of help each other out even more next time. So it's a exploratory process. But thank you so much for being here with us today. This was a fun introduction to all the basic, cool poses that we can do in AcroYoga. It can go much further, but I'm Holly Saitta. Thank you for practicing with us today.